The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Stand up and live your life! Rise! Get yourselves together! Rise! Hands up high!
Welcome to the Rise Above Show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.
Do we have any announcements today?
We want to thank Jay Jung from City Athletic Club for sponsoring the Rise Above Show, and also Las Vegas Meal Prep. We want to thank them for sponsoring our show, and also Marie has been cooking fish meals for Joe's prep, and she did all of my fish meal preps for me when I competed a few weeks ago. And we want to say thank you because that saves me a lot of time, because we eat chicken, turkey, and a lot of egg whites when both of us are in prep. So that saves me one meal I don't have to cook, and it means it makes a huge difference. So we want to take the time to thank her, and her food is really good. So if you're looking for, it doesn't have to be competition prep food. If you're just looking to eat healthy and you want somebody to help you prepare and prep, she's great. So give her her commercial is going to be in the beginning of this. So you'll be able to contact her.
Yeah, I am probably the world's pickiest eater. I mean, I eat a lot of food, but I'm very specific with what I want. And she makes it exactly the way you want. Very healthy stuff. I have some, this is off of her website. She's got things like stir-fried chicken over quinoa, lemon pepper swai fish over quinoa, sauteed chicken over brown rice and veggies, Angus beef burger over sweet potato and veggies. So it's really good stuff. And maybe if you're really busy or lazy like me, not only does she make you the food, but she delivers it. And that is like perfect. I love that.
Yeah, well, a lot of times it's not even being lazy. A lot of my clients, a lot of people I talk to, they're like, if I had the time, I would prep. But a lot of times it's making the time to prep. And I find that, with us, I have to make the time on Sundays to cook, and then usually one day during the week, because you can't, you can cook a bunch. Either way, you've got to make the time to cook a bunch of food and either freeze it or have it available. And that takes time. So that seems to be a lot of the issue. I don't think you're lazy. I think it's a time thing. And for most people I talk to, and for me it's that, that's one of the stressors that I have when I'm doing a prep, is that I'm always in the back of my mind going, okay, when will I have time to cook some more chicken? When am I going to do this? And I mean, you're help out too. I won't make it sound like you don't do anything, but I mean, that is another part of prep that you always have to be, and that's like the most important part of your prep is your food and the amount of meals that you have to eat. And then what I find most people say is they just don't have the time to cook. They're busy running their kids to soccer games or doing this and doing that. By the time they get home, it's 8, 9 o'clock at night. It's easier to stop off and grab a couple burgers than it is to go home at 8, 9 o'clock at night and make dinner for your family. And if you haven't planned your meals for the week or the day, that's exactly what's going to happen.
So if you want to get in touch with Marie, it's at mealprepvegas.com, or the phone number is 702-624-9286. So do you want to start off the show?
I was just going to do a quick little thing on apple cider vinegar, because right now that seems to be one of the things that people are using a lot for many different things. The apple cider vinegar, you can go on the website and it'll also tell you everything I'm telling you today. This is from Dr. Mercola. So I like to look at his stuff, their site, because their stuff is usually pretty accurate and pretty up to date. It's not an opinion-based type thing. So one of the things that you can use apple cider vinegar for is regulating blood sugar levels. It helps with diabetics. Heart issue, if you have heart issues, it helps support heart health in many ways. There are chemicals in the mother, they call it the mother of the apple, and you have to get the apple cider vinegar that has the mother, and that's what contains the aminos and the vitamins that we need. And the enzymes are really important, and that's what apple cider vinegar has, is really good enzymes that help our bodies digest our foods better, because a lot of times your body kind of holds on to the foods in your intestines and in your stomach, and people complain, oh God, I feel so yucky all the time. Why do I feel so tired? Well, this is the body's way. This is a product that will help detoxify your insides a little bit and help you keep you regulated. Again, it says for weight loss, it may help, with your reduction of weight, because it helps keep everything moving and you're not getting bogged down with waste. Sinus congestion, I was surprised to hear that. It has, because it's an enzyme, it helps break up the mucus production, so it makes the mucus a little bit thinner. And when you have kids, a lot of times they don't blow their nose and things. It helps keep the fluids running so they don't get congested or get lung issues, a cold. It helps with sore throat, and also acid reflux and other digestive ailments, what I just said, because it helps keep your tract clean with the enzymes. It actually helps break down the enzymes that cling to the side of the intestine. And that's how people will end up with diverticulitis and some of those type of diseases of the intestine and the colon, because seeds don't totally pass through. They lay in there and they end up causing an infection inside the intestine, which can lead to colitis and some other digestive issues. It helps with warts. It's an energy booster because, again, it has detoxification benefits. So when you're detoxed, you're feeling better. It's also a liver, helps detox your liver. So if you're on a lot of medications, if you're everything goes to our liver, so it helps detox that. Candida, which is it's a yeast infection that you can get. You can get it anywhere. You can get it in your mouth. You can get it in your vagina. You can get it on your feet, believe it or not. And it helps with fatigue, poor memory, depression, headaches, and sugar cravings. And I want to read this. Candida overgrowth usually happens when the body is too acidic from excessive processed foods or sugar, or if there's an insufficient good bacteria in your system. This is another source of probiotics, that when you're not eating a lot of dairies and the bacteria, you tend to clean out the good and the bad bacterias. So this is another way of balancing your system, the good with the bad. Other probiotics, the good ones are the ones that are active, and they're usually in the freezer or the refrigerator section of the health food store. Pills are a waste. If you buy probiotic pills, they're a waste, because the probiotic has to be active. The germ or the bacteria has to be alive. So in a pill form, unless it's refrigerated and it's in a like a capsulated form, like a fish oil, it's no good. So don't waste your money spending a lot of money on pills, because they don't work as well. I mean, they may work, but they don't work as effectively as if they have ones that you can drink. They come in little bottles that you can buy, and then they also have it in, you can get your probiotics from yogurt. Greek yogurt's a good source of your probiotics. But if you're buying them in the store, try to get something that's alive culture. And then the other thing that kind of concerns me about this apple cider thing is that they're telling us that we can ingest it. But it also says that it's good for cleaning. All right, so you go, okay, so now we go from how it's healthy for our insides of our bodies, but we can also use it as a cleaner. It kills weeds. It neutralizes odors. It's a fruit and enzyme wash. It's a natural polishing agent. It's a good hair rinse.
The only thing is, it doesn't taste good.
No, it's a facial toner, deodorant, oral health, fast odor and body odor. It's a soother after you shave. And you can also use apple cider in your cooking. And you have to choose your vinegar wisely. Avoid distilled vinegar, because when they've distilled it, they've taken everything out of it that is beneficial to your body. So when it's distilled, it's, if you're using distilled vinegar to feed your body in some way, then the distilled is not the way to go. If you're going to use it to wash your coffee pot, it would probably be okay, because that's another use that we use white vinegar for, is to clean the pots and your microwaves and different things. So I guess my point being is apple cider vinegar is good for our bodies, and it's also good for external uses too. And again, if you end up in an issue where you're getting a sore stomach or you're getting sick from drinking the apple cider vinegar, then obviously you would not you would not continue to take it. Because I hear that a lot too. People say, well, I tried drinking it, but it kind of made me sick. And sometimes things will make you sick in the beginning because it's the body's way of getting rid of all the toxins. So that's all I have.
Yeah, no, it's great stuff. The problem is it tastes really. Ugh. You
Well,
have
as
to bury
we know,
it in something,
Joe, because we
you
eat
know?
healthy.
Like I bury it in like a quart
I know,
of
but I'm
water.
going to make this comment
and it
because
still tastes
people
bad.
always say, why does everything that's good for you taste bad? It's the same thing with food. A lot of foods that are really nutritious for us, people are like, but they don't taste as good as a cookie or, whatever. So this is kind of the same principle. You have to
Yeah,
know
no, that's true.
why you're using it and what your benefits are going to be. To me, it does taste pretty bad, but I feel better when I drink one.
Do it like a shot. Just get it done.
Yeah, and that's what I mix it with, is a good shot of Crown Royal or tequila or something like that.
I don't think that's the right use of that, but okay, so today we want to talk about objectification. We did a show last week about that, but to me, there's just so much information and there's so many things to be talked about, because I don't want to just do a superficial show. Like I've seen some other shows and I've looked up some things that other people have done, and to me, as I usually say, I think it's very one-sided and I think it's very boring. I don't think that they go underneath the surface and really look at what's going on. One of the first things I would ask is, do you think men and women objectify each other? And I think we would come up with an easy conclusion on that if we're really being honest with each other, we would say, yes, men definitely do objectify women, and women do objectify men. Now, it's the level of it, and the rudeness that goes along. But let's look at it from not trying to persecute anybody, but just trying to step back and observe. Is there any living thing on the face of this planet that doesn't notice the looks of somebody else in its species? Like, it's kind of, that's the way we're biologically drawn. I don't care if you're a butterfly, you're going to look. As a matter of fact, and I looked at this and I couldn't find any. I think human beings are the only species that I've found where the women are more concerned about what they look like than the men. Because every other species, whether it's fish, birds, anything that you look at, it's always the males that are trying to, well, like today, be overly colorful and to stand out. Because it's the women who choose off of that. It's the objectification. In a lot of these species, the male will have some type of show of power, and it's usually by the way they look, or putting on a nice dance or something to that effect, or being able to show that they're strong enough to create a safe environment. So I think it's very normal in the animal kingdom that there is objectification. There almost has to be that, and I think men and women both do it. And I don't think that it doesn't help the conversation to condemn all men or all women for doing it when we kind of all do in a certain way. I just don't think it's particularly bad. That's
I
one
don't
of
think
my
it is
takes
either,
on
but I
it.
think there's a misunderstanding of what objectification means. And if people took the time to look it up and read what the definition of objectification is, in our society, it's not, everybody takes it more in the sexual objectification of women. And when I hear that word dropped a lot, it's always used with women objectifying themselves with whatever they do, or it's men objectifying women as just a sexual object. And, it's funny because you were talking about this the other day, and I went on the internet and I kind of went back about 50 years. And, back even 50 years ago, some of the paintings and some of the artwork that they depict, and I'm going to send some to John to put on this page, I was kind of surprised that even back so many millions and thousands of years ago, when they painted a female of a naked female, and back then, women were plump. Their breasts were not, exaggerated. They had a fat little belly, and they were kind of like almost like cherub shaped. Even back then, when they show a man interacting with the woman in a painting, it's very objectified sexually. She's a sexual object in a painting from even that far back. So I think what gets me a little bit is that the objectification that I think most people are talking about is in the sexual sense of objectifying, and they misunderstand the total meaning. Men don't get objectified as much because women have never really viewed men as a sexual object. We've viewed men as, the provider. We would say that a man was good looking, or he's tall. He's, maybe that's a form of objectification when a woman says, you hear the saying, is he tall, dark, and handsome? Well, why does he have to be tall, dark, and handsome? Why can't he be short, dark, and handsome? Or why can't he be blue-eyed and blonde hair, bald? So that could be misinterpretive of objectification of a male, that he has to be a certain whatever look. But I don't think there's as much of that verbalized in society or talked about as it is on the female end, and probably because most females are the ones that objectify themselves 90% of the time. But then they play both sides of it.
I actually,
John has a question.
he has a hand up.
Okay, I just had to look up the definition of objectification.
Right.
Okay? So this is one of, there's a couple of them, but this is the one I think that we're supposed to be talking about. Objectification is the action of degrading someone to the status of a mere object.
Right.
Now, Heidi, you were talking about artists and painting and how women have been depicted over the years. Do you think that that's objectification, or do you think that that's admiration?
I don't know. It depends on which side, because I know that one of the pictures I saw, the man was clearly grabbing her breast. And the look on his face was like, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a look of affection. It wasn't a look of,
like, ooh, good,
he
good.
was like, look what I just got, kind of a thing. And the girl was kind of like, the look on her face was like, and I can relate to that because it's happened to me over my lifetime. I've told Joe this. There's a difference between objectification. If I look nice and I know I look nice and I get a compliment, I'm okay with it. But if some guy comes up to me and says, nice ass, you fill out those jeans really nice, you're not looking at my face, you're not looking at anything else, you have a butt thing and you've zoned in on that. And that, to me, is not a compliment.
It's degrading.
It's degrading.
Right, and that is, and I think that's where we confuse that, is that in the general population, if we say something nice to someone, or in the workplace, I mean, how many years have we been told, well, you can't say that she has a nice dress, or I like your hair that way, or gee, because we're afraid of getting our asses sued.
Right, things have changed. Right, yeah, that's
but I
true.
mean, and it's taken away from, I think we all need to hear compliments. Like, dude, you look good today, man.
Right.
Or Heidi, you look great. I love the hat. That kind of thing. But we're all afraid to say that kind of stuff because we don't want to be accused of, hey, I'm not an object. You can't talk to me that way.
Right.
I think a lot of it, though, also is the perception, right? Like, everything happens inside the person. So I did look up the definition of objectification, and I got what you got. But the interesting thing is, that's like a feminist definition where they're trying to push the envelope, which it's not a straight definition. There's emotion behind that. Because I would still say it's an object. Art is a great example, like you said. I think there's a lot of interpretation. If you go back to the classical time, the Roman times, you'll see is men that are enormously muscular and shredded. They're lean. But back then, most men were gay. So we can't even say that they were objectifying women as much. We don't really know, because men and women were, I don't know how you would put it, because I didn't live back then. I think women were probably objectified for their ability to give birth. But I also think other men objectified other men, and it was not unusual for a big, strong guy to be going after underage boys back then either. As a matter of fact, people talk about, here's a terrible subject, but child porn. If you look up child porn, don't do this. If you look up child porn on the internet, you can and will be arrested for that. But then again, you can go to Italy and check out the statue of David by Michelangelo. By the way, he's 15 years old and he's naked. That is child porn, depending on whose eyes wants to figure that out. So yesterday's artwork is today's child's porn. So I'm trying to say it's really, really difficult. And it's in the eye of the beholder. I was telling John before the show, I think we're all victims and also products of our environment and socially where we live, what year it is. And it's kind of been socialized into boys at a very young age that you need to be somewhat aggressive. And I think women buy into that, where if you can't face your fear and your anxiety to ask out a girl, to give her a compliment, that is a screening process. You are relegated to the pussified section, and you're not going to get a girl because you don't have enough spine to ask out a girl or to say something nice. So it's almost like, I don't want to denigrate anybody. I think we're all in it. I think sometimes feelings get hurt, and that's kind of the way it is. Women are, let's say, passive aggressive, because as much as society wants them to be very passive, how are they going to attract? So then they objectify themselves a little. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's normal. Look at you today. You look great. You put on the hat to cover up your hair. I think your hair looks great as it is. I'm not saying you're objectifying yourself, but there's no doubt that when we go back over the film here, someone's going to say, you are a good-looking woman. That's great. My ratings go up. You know, I don't care. I don't think it's a negative thing. And yes, I objectify you. There's no doubt that I do that. You take off your clothes, I'm looking. You want to lie to me?
But I think this is the thing. It's like right, and that's okay, because I said to you before, there is gentlemen and there's not gentlemen.
Right.
And women know, and this is where the boundary comes. This is what each individual, and we'll get into the individuality. Me on a personal level, yes, I like to be complimented by you. I like to be complimented mostly by you. I'd rather hear it from you than other men, but you know, whatever.
Can I just stop for 1 second? I just want to make a point. I have no problem with this either, and this is, women tend to understate what's going on in here because it's not socially acceptable. I'm going to give you the right to be socially acceptable. You enjoy
Wait.
when a good-looking man
You're going to give her the right?
Yeah, because she's going to be afraid to do it. So I'm gonna try something, and I
so
bet
you're
you I'm
not
right.
giving her the right. What you're saying
Making
is
it
that,
comfortable.
Is that you are saying to her, if I'm listening to what I'm hearing, what you're trying to say is like, it's okay with me if you do something that's not socially acceptable.
Absolutely.
So you're just saying it's okay with you. You're not giving her permission, because what you just did was objectify her by that statement.
But if it was, I hear you. But if it was also malicious intent, I'd be a jerk.
Absolutely, and it's just.
But that's where it gets dicey.
You're not a jerk. You just objectified it. You just proved your own point that that's how we have been indoctrinated as people.
True.
Not
In other words,
just men but women too.
In my mind, I'm trying to be the gatekeeper. I'm trying to say that on my individual thing.
But why are you trying to be the gatekeeper?
Because
what
society
do you need
is
to
a
be?
big, huge animal that really, I think, locks people in. And I think sometimes it takes a person to say, you know, you can be vulnerable in front of me. You can be honest. You know.
Well, what I was going to say was that it's women in general, even if you are doing something to objectify yourself. Somebody could say the shirt I have on today is, I'm objectifying myself because I'm showing my shoulders and whatever, you know. I know people show more than that, but that's beside the point. It's in the way that it's taken by me as an individual. If somebody says to me, you look really nice in that shirt today, I can go one or two ways with it. I could be, thank you very much, or depending on where it's coming from, I could be like, you're kind of a creeper, and thank you, but I move on my way, kind of a thing. So there's, you know,
it's difficult,
women know when it's a nice, sincere compliment, and it's a degrading thing that's somebody saying to you. And if you're with a partner that's being degrading to you, then you don't need to be in the relationship, because you should be able to, a woman should be able to wear whatever she wants in that relationship. If she's with a secure man, she should be able to be comfortable to walk out of the house with her dress on, or you know, a little shirt on, or whatever she is, and be trusted. You know, that's a whole nother thing. But what we're talking about is the objectification of women. And for me personally, it's more of a sexual thing for me. Like I just think I just don't like it. You know, I don't like that women generally put themselves in that position, and I mean, we have our sexuality, and we are women, and that's I guess our I don't know what you want to call it. That's like, at the end of the day, that's what we can use. And no matter what, at the end of the day, if things are not going right, we can always resort to our sexuality to get what we need. Men don't always have that opportunity. So women know already in their brain that if at the worst day of my life, if I can't do something, I can have sex with any guy I want to at any time I want to, because I'm a female and I have what most men want. And you don't have to be really good looking or anything either. It's just the way men are just wired that way. They want what, you know, that's the thing. So that's what bothers me about the objectification, is that when I hear women complain about it, and yet, why are you doing it then? If it's something that you find insulting or degrading, then why do we see the commercials that we see on TV with women dressed very, you know, you drive down the strip, and you know, I remember when Ava was small, and I'd have even my nephew in the car, I'd be like, cover your eyes, because, you know, you'd be driving down the strip, and all you saw was tits and ass. I mean, and granted, it's not like porn, but it's the suggestion of, and it's like, why are you showing a woman's rear end in a pair of booty shorts? You're objectifying her. That's all that's good about her? Or you're showing a woman with big boobs. Now you're telling the girl that has little boobs that she's not attractive because she's not, you know. So to me, that's where it creates a societal thing where women are so insecure, and then they end up competing with each other, and the men just kind of sit back and go, the women are going crazy.
I agree that it happens. You know, I do. And yes, there are rude individuals. Definitely doing things that they shouldn't, saying things that they shouldn't. On both sides, by the way, because I've done my share of stuff in modeling, and I got to tell you, when you open up the door a little bit, and women that have more money and power than you, because there are women photographers and things like that, they do take certain liberties too. You know, to be honest, they do. I don't think it's necessarily man or woman. It appears to be man, because they tend to have more power in certain situations, but I think it's more who has the power. And it could be a woman.
And I think whoever has the power to fuel the argument whichever way they want to go. So depending on which side of that you sit on is the person that you're going to hear the loudest, either complaining about the objectification or not. Women have a lot of power in this country over all of that. They're the same ones that they objectify themselves, but then they also complain about it. So to me, it's an individual thing. I think that if you're going to objectify yourself, then as an individual, then it should be handled as an individual. No, that person is objectifying themselves. I'm not. That person is being rude and saying something inappropriate, not that person. And what we do is we kind of clump everybody into it, and we go, well, you know, all men objectify women. I know a lot of really nice men that are very polite, they're gentlemanly, and they would never talk to me in that tone. And I also know other men that have no problem talking to me in a disrespectful way, because there's women out there that are okay with that. They're like, oh, well, he must like me if he talks nasty to me.
Well, it's strict behavioral, right? Like sometimes your behavior is reinforced, and sometimes there's a consequence. And if you see certain guys at the gym who are a little bit too touchy-feely with certain clients and stuff like that, it's because they succeed a certain amount or enough for them to continue that behavior. But I think it's really interesting, because I still think it comes from inside the individual too, to decide if it's objectification or not. And I really don't like feminists, just like you said, throwing out a blanket statement. Like, for example, I would be the one to be able to say if it's objectification or not, right? Like, I've been in bodybuilding and all that. Let's say somebody, and it's happened before, I don't need to name names. I was going to name somebody famous, but it doesn't matter. They'll say, I've never seen legs like that. I don't think that's objectification, because the way I look at it, muscle is the fruit of my labor. So you might see that on the surface, but in my mind, I am being complimented for my dedication and commitment and for all the pain that I've withstood over the years to even come back from injury, to train every day, to when most people are sleeping, I'm working out. When most people are eating bad food, I'm eating good food. I don't look at it as, you have a nice body. I'm like, oh my God, don't, because it's not an object. To me, your body is who you are. Like, it actually is telling me who I am, right? Like, you don't walk around at 5% body fat just because. It's because I've made many correct choices in that direction to do that.
Okay, but let me ask you
You know
a
what
question.
objectification
If a gay guy
is?
came up to you, because you're a straight heterosexual male.
Absolutely.
And a gay guy came up to you and said, man, you got amazing whatever, that some level you wouldn't find that disrespectful?
Hold it, but
If you know he was doing it in a sexual, I want to sleep with you
ask
kind
me
of
the
way?
question, and I'll tell you exactly how I would answer. Let's play it out.
How would you answer?
Well, you have to ask me the question.
I just did.
No, you didn't. Just give me a straight
How would you feel if
question.
a gay man came up to you and was being overly sexual with you and commenting on your body parts?
And said what?
And basically said, oh, I like your glutes or I like your butt. I could, whatever with that.
Well, there's two things in there. If somebody was gay, I don't have a problem with anybody being gay. So they're allowed to have eyes and to look and to see what they like. I'm not going to make a judgment call on that, on their sexuality. If they say, I'm gay and I like your legs, I'm like, thank you very much. Straight man says, I think your legs are great. Thank you very much. A girl says, lesbian says, I love your legs. I'd say, thank you very much. Heterosexual woman, I love your legs. Thank you very much. That's how I feel about it. Now, if it was the next step,
if you're a male model and some guy's taking your picture and he wants to have sex with you, and you don't find that you're being objectified by a man?
No, I honestly don't. And I'll tell you why. Because when people talk, I feel that they give up their power. Unless somebody is really overcoming you with physical force or they own your paycheck, you have the power to say yes, no, thank you, I'm not interested, or I am interested. So yes, this has happened more times than I can count. Most of the photographers are gay, and they would say, wow, you look great. I've got 2 tickets to go see a Broadway play. You want to go? Thank you very much. I love the offer, but I love working with you on a professional level, but no, I'm not gay. I have a girlfriend. Or I don't have a girlfriend, but I'm not gay.
Have you ever lost a gig because of it?
If I did, I didn't know about it.
Okay, thank you for answering my question, because that's a
Yeah.
form of objectification too. It's on a different level, but again, it's
Right.
how you want to interpret that, and you can interpret it
You want my?
any which way you want
I just thought of
as
a
an
story.
individual.
Listen, I was invited to go over this guy's house in New Jersey, which was very close to New York and Broadway. At that house was, if I'm going to mess this up, you can Google me just so I don't mess it up. He was on 21 Jump Street. He looks like me. He had the dark hair, but he was very popular back then. You know his name? The one who wasn't as popular was Johnny Depp. So one was Johnny Depp, and the other guy, if you look up 21 Jump Street.
I know who you're talking about, and he was in something else after that. But yeah, dark hair, kind of a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you Google it real quick? Because I don't want people to think I'm lying.
No, I know who you're talking
And I'll just go over the story. Yes, I was invited to go to a Broadway play with them. And I was also invited to go for a weekend sleepover. Now, they didn't say, hey, if you just, I'm going to give you this job. But it was like a month after my Playgirl shoot. So what do you think my answer was?
I don't know.
Well, it could only be 2 answers. Take one.
I have no idea. I would say you said no.
My answer was no. I was uncomfortable with that. I don't know if Johnny... I could care less if he is or if he's not. And the other guy, I can't remember his name. But it was like, this guy obviously had a thing for young, because I was young then, young, dark-haired guys. But that's not where I wanted to go. So I don't feel objectified. I feel like it's a guy who is in the business who is trying to take advantage. That does, like, I didn't allow myself to be objectified.
Well, I guess my point I'm trying to make with all this is that it depends on the individual and where you want to go with whatever's being said to you, the actions that are being shown to you, that kind of a thing. But in generally speaking, in society, women all the time, more than men ever will be, are objectified. And they are objectified by their female friends right along with males. And I don't know, we've had this talk about it's gay men too. Well, I have to tell you, in my experience, I don't really have ever had a gay man ever try to objectify me to my face. Most of my gay male friends have always been very respectful. It's always been the straight men that have tried to objectify me as a part and not a female. So I've lived that experience. Obviously, we're having this show on that, and we said earlier that it depends on your experiences. My experiences have not always been good ones, and I have no problem, though, coming out of that and having an open mind to say, well, I had that experience. Was that make every man objectify a woman? Does that make every woman out there objectify another woman? No, it means that we all make choices. And depending on what your choice is, depends on what your audience will be. So, if you are objectifying yourself and you're doing things,
nothing wrong with that as long as
there's
you wanna
nothing
do it.
wrong as long as you're consenting. And that was another thing with objectification. As long as the woman or the man's agreeing with it, it's not considered objectification. And to me, the first time you accept a modeling job, the first time you accept a dancing gig, I get on stage and I'm in a two-piece bathing suit, in a split and everything else, doing a routine for people could easily say, well, you're objectifying yourself. Yes, I am. And I'm well aware of that when I get on stage half naked, that, I'm leaving myself open for not only the nice people to say, wow, what an amazing thing you did, and the other creepers that'll say, oh, do you have a boyfriend? I really like that one. Okay, I can take
But
that
see-
one or two ways. I just laugh it off. I go, well, you know what?
But see, I look at it slightly different. I look at it as I'm an artist. If you're superficial and see my body and that's all you see, you can say you objectify me, and that's fine. But I don't see it that way. Someone who's a little more enlightened would say that, there's an example. I thought of this before. I'm so glad I just thought of it now. About 12 years ago, I was in Japan. It was an amazing experience. I don't know how to speak Japanese. I didn't need to. Almost everywhere, a man would come by and he would bow and he would say, hard work. I think that there's something in that, those two words, that turn it maybe to something that we can use. In other words, it might be misinterpreted if somebody said, nice pecs, or your arms are huge, or your glutes are great. It didn't do that. It was always, and it was numerous times, obviously not the same person, it was everywhere, but it was always like a bow, like of hard work. And it was like, yes, that's a person who sees underneath the fruits of the labor. That's what I think. So like on stage, there's no objectification there if you don't think there is. Because I would say I'm an artist. The only time I think, in my opinion, that objectification occurs if somebody says, if you sleep with me, I'll give you a better placing.
But that's not objectification.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay, can I
because
say-
here's the thing. Here's the key that we keep
Forgetting.
glossing over.
Yeah.
Objectification is degrading.
Because
So-
now,
Right.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second.
Go ahead.
Degrading, okay? When we do our routines, and one of the things that I noticed over the years, and this is not, I'm not putting anybody down right now. I'm not saying anything. I think everybody has the right to do whatever they want, on stage, off stage, in their bedroom, out of their bedroom. I could care less. As an individual, I choose when I would do a routine, I want it to be artsy, I want it to be beautiful, and I want it to interpret the song. Okay, there's meaning behind it. To me, whether it's just to me, and I'm the only one on stage that knows the meaning of it, I want it to come across that way. We had some competitors in the show, and I've seen this over the years, the women and men included, will get up on stage and they act like strippers. And they're touching themselves, they're humping the ground, they're humping the air, they're grabbing their boobs, their crotches, they're sticking their butts in the judges' faces. To me, they're objectifying themselves because they're trying to emulate somebody else that most people, they would say that's
degrading
objectification. It's
themselves.
degrading.
They're
okay?
degrading themselves, and I think that that's the key issue that we.
But somebody would say to you, that's not degrading, because why is being a stripper degrading? It's your interpretation.
I'm not saying it
No,
is.
but I'm just saying,
Right, but
the
I'm
other
saying-
side of the argument would be, well, then why would you consider that, or myself, degrading? Because some people look at a stripper and say, no, I don't consider that degrading. There are strippers now that, they're not strippers for sex, they're entertainers, and they're really good at what they do. So there's a part of, depending on what side of that you're coming from, determine and how much you know about it.
Right. No, I agree. I think it's hard to know what degrading is for the person to say, right? Like if you feel degraded, then you could say that you are. But then it also gets dicey, because if somebody says something to somebody, they could make them feel degraded. But basically,
I'm talking my eyes.
well, it's true. But basic cognitive behavioral therapy will tell you this: you don't make me feel anything. Okay, like I'm responsible for my own emotions. If you say, "Hey Joe, nice hair," and I go, "Oh my God, you just degraded me. You made me feel a certain way," or you could say, "Joe, the guy over there, I really am kind of attracted because he's 6'3". I could feel degraded, but that would be on me, not you. So I think all of what we're saying is true today in different parts. I don't think anything's 100% correct. But I also think one of the reasons why we have the show is because I want to come up with an answer to help things. And I really think the key to not feeling degraded as much is self-esteem. Like if you feel good about yourself, there's a difference, right? Like if I don't like myself and I feel really weird, I could be naked, let's say. But if I love my body and the way it moves, I've suddenly become a nude. I've done nude modeling too. They don't call it naked modeling. Nobody wants to see, well, hopefully not. Nobody wants to see naked modeling because it's like, you know what I mean? Like they feel degraded. I know that there's really sick people out there who enjoy that. I get that, but let's skip over that for a second. But when you talk about nudes, they're naked. I mean, they're without clothing, but they're very proud. They look great. I think the human form, the way it was born, nude, I mean, the fact that we have clothes is just socialized as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's anything degrading about the body.
That do photography, and I know somebody, and one of the reasons that she chooses not to do crotch shots is because it's degrading. She does not want anybody looking at her photography and going, that's what they zero in on a female. So
absolutely,
she's very careful when she does her photography that what she does is not, she doesn't want the people viewing her art as that's the first thing their eye goes to. She wants them to see the muscle. She wants them to see, the expression or the way the layout is. Because I asked her that one time. I said, you have opportunities all the time to do naked men and show their genitalia, and you've got the same thing with the girls, and she's adamant about no crotch shot. She goes, you will not get a picture taken with me with your legs spread open and anything that's not tastefully done.
Artistic choice. I myself don't find, a birth canal to be degrading. It's where it came from, right? Like, now it's how you are putting. Here's a good example for you. This is a million years ago. I had just done a modeling shoot, and there were two girls, right? And they asked me if I would be interested in other work. And I said, well, of course, let's. And they showed me a couple of examples of what they wanted me to do. And they were cards, which I guess people don't find them too offensive, right? Like it would be like, you would see, it would say something about a birthday or Christmas, whatever it was. And then you would open it up and it would make a joke of the guy's penis, right? Like it was nude. I looked at that and thought, I did Playgirl, but I won't do that. Because I feel like that's part of a joke, and my body will not be representing a joke for this particular company. And I told him, I said, no, thank you. But I said, if you have anything that seems artistic, that you're not making fun of my body, that people are going to look and laugh at like a,
pop-up dick.
Okay, that's a good example. No, but I mean, see, to
I
me,
just got a visual. When you said that, I visualized you opening it up and the
No,
thing
but you
goes
were right,
bing,
though. That's one
and
of
you
the
go, oh,
things,
happy
though.
day. You could
But-
even
but
have
you s-
confetti coming out of it.
right? No, but they actually do that kind of stuff.
I'm
And it's
just
funny
saying.
you say that. And listen,
I know. I'm just saying.
you're allowed, and if you have a bachelorette party, go for it. I have no problem with that. But see, that's my line.
But that is objectification.
But it's okay. But I choose not to. That's why I was not objectified, because I chose not to.
So that was the point I
And
made
anybody
before.
can choose.
Whether you felt objectified or not did not change the fact that you can still be objectified. Whether you felt it or what you're saying is that I don't care if someone objectifies me.
Right, I think...
Don't care. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
That's their problem.
No, because it exists. Don't get me wrong, it exists. But I think as we try to come to somewhat of a conclusion to help people, I would say a healthy individual, we have to know that we're responsible for our feelings and our behaviors, and we can't change people, places, things. So as soon as I go outside of myself, like let's say for example, I can't make all the bacteria in the world go away. What I can do is I can get some good sleep and eat correctly and develop an incredibly good immune system. That's hopefully what I do with my body. Emotionally, what I do is if a girl says, hey, look at that guy, I go, it says a lot more about them. It says nothing about me. That to me is healthy. And trust me, I was on that other end, and I was what I would call like more of an emotional midget. But I've trained really hard not to be so reactive. The more powerful you get, the more self-confidence you get, you become very proactive, I would say. It's like what you want and how you act. You don't become reactive off of somebody. Like we were watching this show, 13 Reasons, and one of the things that girl kept saying is, you made me feel like the lowest thing. How did somebody do that? Because they said a word she didn't like. Well, if you, like, what kind of prison must it be that your happiness is dependent upon everybody around you praising you and thinking you're great, and they can never say anything wrong? I would love to live in an idealistic world where everybody loves me and everybody says nice things, but I know it's not going to happen. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to understand that I'm responsible for who I am. And if somebody says, like if a girl comes up to me and says, hey, how much money you make? I'm glad I didn't say anything and I waited for your question, because now I know what you care about. It says so much about you and not anything about me.
Well, it all bases off of self-esteem.
Yes,
And one
and
of the
that's how
things
I can
with
help the
this,
most.
the coaching of women, the wellness coaching that I'm trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my choice, is I'm trying to teach women that you have control of your decisions. You have control of who you want to be, how you want to dress,
That camera.
everything, all of it. Because most of us, including myself in that, I was raised by a generation of women that they did the best they could. I'm not putting anybody down, but a lot of your beliefs about yourself and about who you are aren't even who you are. They're things that people told you as you were growing up. Women, you need to just get through school, Heidi Marie. Don't get pregnant and don't shame the family. Just get through school and then get married. That's it. That's all I got to do. And the other part was, pretty girls. Pretty girls. And you're fat. You have a fat rear end, and you're big on the bottom. You need to do something about that. So, a healthy self-esteem would say, now I would say, oh, thank you for the compliment or something, right? I don't let that faze me.
Do you know how many women are spending thousands
But back
of dollars
then,
to get
back in the old days, I got to tell you, I used to hate it when I was a young girl, and a black guy would come up and tell me I had a nice rear end. We all know that. I don't know if I should have said that. That was kind of stereotyping.
No,
but
but that's your
I'm just
experience.
saying.
Is
I'm
that
just
your
saying. My
experience?
experience was that, and let me tell you, I hated it. I hate being called Buncini because my maiden name was Mancini, so they made it Buncini. Jello, watch it wiggle, jiggle. They would sing the song, the Jello song. Now, as a young girl, my dad used to say, "Don't worry about it." He goes, "You inherited my rear end. You got the Mancini butt. It's cool." But I'm a teenager and I'm growing up and I'm looking at these skinny little girls that the guys like. Now, none of the guys liked me because I had a big rear end. I assume that. The guys didn't like me because I was shy and because I was who I was. It had nothing to do with my physical part, but because I was young and I was insecure, I took it as they don't like me because they like her better, or they like her better because she's having sex and I'm not. And that could have been part of the reason too, but when you grow up, it's like we say, well, why do you have to have your thought in that place? And I think a lot of times people grow up with faulty beliefs, and we've talked about this on our show too. And you have to kind of switch those beliefs around and ask yourself, who am I, and what makes me me, and what do I want to do for me? And most times when women are taking care of themselves, and it doesn't mean I'm going to go and work out so you can go kiss my butt. It's not that kind of an attitude. It's, I need to go to the gym for a few hours because I need some me time. Because guess what? When the woman comes home, and whether it's gym time or go to an art class, come here. We have awesome classes here at the Wellness Center, Lumosity. Great classes here. Even if a woman comes here and says, I'm going to go for an hour and I'm going to learn how to crochet. So what? Go crochet, unwind, do something you want to do because you're going to be a much better person for your kids and your husband. And the sexualization, the objectification, women, because of low self-esteem when they're younger, they assume if I dress this way or I look this way or I talk this way, I'm going to attract a mate. And you will. But it might not be the right kind of mate, or it might not be the right person for you because they're attracted to what's out here. They're not attracted to what's really inside the person.
Right. And I think as parents, we need to teach our kids that, and we need to stop trying to smooth the road over for the kids, because you can never do that. You can prepare the kid for a rough road and say there are not going to be people that are always politically correct. There are not going to be people that always like you for your inner stuff. It's not going to happen. That's not the way life is. I want to do a review on that 13 Reasons show that everybody's talking about. Of course, I'm going to hit it from a different angle and annoy everybody. But right now, I do get annoyed watching that show because everybody's like, oh my God, these poor kids. And it's like they want to keep making their life easier and easier. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because they can't handle any adversity, anything at all. Any negativity, they're all going, oh my God, I need to kill myself. But I also think
I
need to.
The other question in there
damage.
is when I watch that, I look at certain episodes too, and I say, wait a minute, I remember going through something similar to that. Why didn't I kill myself? I remember a girlfriend that got pregnant and got sent away. Why did she not kill herself? She has a very productive life. So again, at the end of it, it's like, it's your choice. Like, what makes you, and I think that's what this discussion has to be too.
Absolutely.
Is what sets the difference between what kid is going to go out there and kill themselves or take a bunch of pills or drown themselves in a pool, opposed to you can look at that, and I can look at a lot of those instances and say, I remember that happening to somebody, I remember that happening to me, but I'm still here alive and breathing, and I got through it.
I'm going to give you one reason, because I don't know all the reasons, and it's different for everybody. One of the reasons is because you had an amazing father that would, I don't know why that just hit me right now. That's amazing. You had an amazing father that would stand up for his daughter, and when some kid would bother you by saying something, you knew that you had a better man at home who would always stick up for you. And that's one of the things, and I don't want to make this into a 13 Reasons thing, we don't have a lot of time, but man, I will do a show on it, and I'm going to destroy that, because I'm tired of people thinking that that's a great show for a lot of good reasons. They're missing the point.
But it's disturbing a lot of people, and they've even
it is.
put a warning
It's
on
an
it.
amazing thing.
18 and older, because a lot of the teenagers are watching it now and having like anxiety, and it's really affecting them in a.
I got to say this: the parents on that show. I'm not giving anything away here on it, but there's two parents on the show that what they're doing is they're trying to sue the school for their child who committed suicide. Okay. Fair enough. You're angry. You're not going to take responsibility. You're saying the school did it. But here's the thing. The reason why this is not really going to happen well for them is because when authorities start asking questions, they didn't even know who their daughter's friends were. You get what I'm saying? You're not in your kid's life. You have every right, okay? You got your own life. But you're missing the boat. You can't complain after the fact when you weren't there in the beginning. if you're handing your kids everything and making their life so easy, but yet you're not involved in all their stuff, and you just hand them a phone and go watch your stuff, and there's no direction in their life to talk about things, and you don't have dinners together, you don't eat breakfast together, you don't do anything together, that you don't show them a decent relationship and how to talk to people, and that you have a self-esteem whether Johnny down the street thinks you have straight teeth or not. If you're not teaching them these things, what do you think is going to happen? And you don't have the right to complain to the world and say the world sucks. No, you suck. You need to improve your parenting. And it's all over. Helicopter parenting is destroying this generation of kids. And now we have a show that's glorifying it, saying that we need to protect the kids more. Stop protecting the kids. You need to have them go through adversity. John, I know we have a lot of time.
No, but I want to comment on that because I've also seen the show. And to a certain point, I agree with you. However, I think a part of what everyone is missing is trying to tell the other kids, don't be a dick. You don't have to be a dick.
Exactly.
And in the extreme cases, here's what can happen if you are.
Right.
And pay a little more attention to, yes, every one of those kids.
And they didn't take any accountability. That's what I told Joe.
No
I said,
one takes
now,
accountability.
One of these kids is
Parents, kids,
is coming
nobody.
forward.
Right.
They're not taking any accountability for what their part in any of anything was.
Right.
And I'm like, look at that. I go, they're not even when they see somebody getting beaten up, they just kind of stand there. It's like,
They film it.
Can somebody take accountability and like step in there? And if
That
you
would
get
never
beat up
happen.
too, do the right thing. It's like, what happened to doing the right thing? Do they know what the right thing is? But that's what I got out of it. I was like, none of these kids are taking accountability. I thought, what a bunch of brats.
That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And
You know,
I
no
think
care,
that
no
was,
empathy.
That was one of the lessons, I think, from that show that I think that we need to talk about. Or
We will.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to touch on
We'll
it
get
today.
your input on the show, what you thought too, John.
But yeah, I think we can have a great show. John, before how much
Go
time we
ahead,
have?
whatever.
No, because I just want to make sure that people know that when I told you to Google that name.
Grieco.
Okay, you ready?
Grieco, that's
Richard Grieco.
Right.
John, think
Was
about
Rico
this.
or Greco?
Grieco.
Greco.
Listen, if this is your thing,
I was going to say, it wasn't Rico, it was Greco or Greco or
yeah,
something.
if this is your thing, this is your moment.
My moment?
You ready? 1989.
That's my moment.
1989.
Okay.
New Jersey. Me, like 24 years old, 25. Invited over to have a sleepover with Johnny Depp and Richard Grieco.
Damn, I would have liked that, just for Johnny, to see Johnny Depp.
Oh, of course, Johnny
I'm
Depp.
just kidding.
Just for the record, he weighed 115 pounds then, and I was still a bodybuilding champion. In 1989, I had come in third place in the United States Bodybuilding Championships. He was looking nothing like me, although he did put the time and effort into being an actor, and I continued to work through school, and then I trained Madonna and blah, 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 who did like my legs, by the way.
Good.
Not
good.
a big deal. But anyway.
Where is she?
Where is she? She's world famous, and she's like, I don't know where she is, to be honest with you. She's probably trying to figure
I
out.
like the hat.
She's a skank.
I like the hat.
You objectified her.
Wait. Before the show, Joe and I were talking about, we all do it.
Absolutely.
We all
No, that's part of the
objectify
absolutely.
other people and other things, and some of us, or sometimes, we go, oh wait, that's not the right thing to do. But
Right.
I think I may have to step back or take a step back on what we were talking about, because when I think about it, and what we talked about was not in a degrading way. I mean, when I see a excuse me, an attractive woman or someone,
Right.
the thought that goes through my head is like, all right, God, you know,
Yeah,
nice
exactly.
job, man. That, you know, because and maybe it's just because I'm a man, but I see the female form, and being a photographer too, I think helps, as a work of art.
You were a man before you were a photographer.
That's true.
He's
but
still a man.
I see that as a work of art. I mean,
Are
I
you still a
see
man?
it. I've got a huge picture in my house of a scantily clad woman
Mm-hmm.
with wings, long blonde hair, Jim Beam, and a pack of Marlboros on the table.
That's your heaven.
There you go.
And it just I mean, it to me it was like, okay, she just happened to be scantily clad. I mean, that was just a plus.
Right.
But the picture made a statement about women, about they can be an angel, they can be a bitch, they can be a badass, you know, all of the different components that I saw in that picture.
Right.
When I first saw that, I thought, perfect.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
So-
that. Can I
But
throw
don't
in
think
one
that was
thing?
objectifying.
Can I throw in one thing before we
Do
leave?
you think that's objectifying?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
think it's a bad word, though. You know, like it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes if it's meant to be degrading, but I think looking at an
No, no,
object,
no.
seeing something.
And that's what I think. What I was talking about earlier is don't confuse objectification with admiration, or even go so far as to say worship. You know,
Right.
because a lot
Yeah,
of the
it's-
artists, you know, a couple of hundred years ago, or back at Rubenesque, and you know
Oh, yeah.
the voluptuous woman. Look at Marilyn Monroe. Look at
I
Jane
love
Russell.
Marilyn Monroe. Jane
Yeah,
Russell.
they're all like size
They were
12,
not
size
women,
4.
they were great.
women. They were voluptuous.
And that's what I
Ava
said.
Gardner, she's my
Ava
favorite.
Gardner. I mean,
See, that's what I
was-
said last week. When women have this thought, like you can think anything you want, you're entitled to
And
that.
then along comes Twiggy.
Yeah.
Twiggy.
So, but tell me the data. Where is it that men only like skinny women? There's no data on that.
No.
It's not true at all. Like most men like a woman who eats. It's about size 12, right? I mean, you know, the Marilyn Monroe's, blah blah blah. Go down the line.
So there's been a song playing during the show.
Oh, louder than us.
I don't know. I'll find out when I edit it out. But
All right,
anyway.
we'll figure it out.
So
All
there may
right,
be a
then.
portion that gets worked out.
Thanks for watching the Rise Above show. I am Joe Perroni.
I'm Heidi Mancini.
Bye.